How are you, Alexei Vlasovich? Thank you for your work, Vladimir Vladimirovich. I have been heading the region for 3.5 years, and I would like to report on the interim results and how we are growing. In general, in 3 years, we have managed to grow in the economy by more than 1/3, and now it is critical for us to show 1 trillion in regional GDP. As for the income of the citizens, the main task was to increase the average salary, and we compare ourselves. We have risen to 2 positions in the Central Federal District. This is due to the fact that we have opened new industrial parks, industrial zones. Last year, we opened 13 enterprises with a total number of new jobs of 2,000. In principle, the region already has its traditional industrial face. The Guj-Kristani district is traditionally the capital of glass production. We produce 90% of all tar glass and 70% of all fiberglass. For example, there is the Kalakshan aggregate plant. It does better and perhaps is practically a monopolist in terms of asphalt and concrete plants. They have installed 15 plants in our new territory, Crimea, DPR, LPR, and practically all the asphalt is our asphalt. The M12 highway is also practically our plant. The Volgobas plant has been operating in the country for several years under the program of public transport replacement. We have 2 special economic zones. Dobrograd has recently opened 2 enterprises there. One is in the opening stage. There are about 5 more residents in the design and thanks to the government, we have been supported by the Vladimir Special Economic Zone. We have opened the so-called Rusty Belt. When the enterprises were closed, now our Special Economic Zone operates in the Alexandrovsky. There are already 14 residents there. We have opened the Shaft Technologies plant with your participation. It is a special economic zone when it comes to climate equipment, ventilation equipment. It is an Excel industrial park of the engineering and climate systems and electronics. It is a leader in the production of thermal systems, batteries, air conditioners, and so on. The Diamond Valley, it is called the City of Karabanovo. It is planned to produce plates made of diamonds. The plates are the basis for these are breakthrough technologies that should work for us. We are working with the government and the Ministry of Industry on this topic. The Murom-Mazhavod Industrial Park, for example, the steering rails with electric amplifiers or the Portal Electric Bridge were produced only by Bosch. Now our enterprise Murom-Mazhavod produces them for Oris, Electrobus and Kamaz. I would like to talk about the M12 highway. Thanks to your support and initiative, the highway has started working. Of course, the road workers themselves note that the loading of the highway is twice as fast as they expected. Now from 12,000 cars a day to 30,000, 35,000 is twice as fast as they expected. And the level of traffic jams is large. Unfortunately, this gives us additional statistics on traffic jams. But we will work on the regional road network. This year, we will cover more than 30 kilometers of roads to make them safer. It has increased tourism by more than 50% and increased investment in logistical capacity. Railway transport, dry ports, and so on are developing nearby. Therefore, new growth points appear, not only in the territory of the Vladimir region, but also further in Nizhny Novgorod. Last year, we celebrated the millennium of our Suzdal. We have been preparing for this event for 8 years. During this time, we have updated the entire road network by about 85–90%, repaired 4 bridges, sidewalks, courtyards, parks, and new routes have. Last year, the small Suzdal of 10,000 people was accepted by almost 2 million tourists. There are only 3.5 million tourists in the region. We are built, in addition to the city infrastructure, we have repaired the hospital. This year, we are building a polyclinic. And this year, we are building a school. I wanted to tell you separately, I visited Alexander Lukashenko and asked him to give us Belarusian builders for construction, to build a Belarusian company. I will invite him to the opening ceremony. Irina Matvienko, help. If you don't mind, I also invite you. You can give advice on culture or education. Yes, it does. Thanks to the fact that tourism has now become an internal driver of growth, new types of tourism appear. Last year, we held the largest car tour. More than 700 crews arrived with cars. This movement is growing. There is an infrastructure where you can refuel, recharge, rest, and so on. There is also a riverboat called houseboat. It can move along both public roads. Moreover, it can move along small rivers. We do not have many large rivers, such as the Volga, Lake Ladoga. Small rivers, such as the Klyazma, where low precipitation and in fact, it is a house on the water. You can practically live in autonomy as a good yacht, only with a much better habitat and at a much more democratic price. Therefore, we are trying to develop new. Thank you. You also supported us in getting into the program of reconstruction of 70 airports. The Ministry of Defense had a 1.9-kilometer runway. The Ministry of Defense and we have agreed to take it into regional ownership. After the reconstruction, the runway will be 2.6 kilometers long. It is practically suitable. It is also profitable for the military. We will also return to the number of flying regions, because we already have our partners who are interested in the development of civil flights. There are two questions that I would like to discuss. Unfortunately, the biggest problem we have is the bridge over the Klyazma. The bridge was built in 1956 in a state of emergency. We are one of the few cities. Unfortunately, the most difficult thing is that we have a regional hospital on the right bank. If the bridge is built, there is a 40-kilometer detour, and people have to travel 50 kilometers. This is a very expensive project. I would like to ask you for your support. If I may, I would also like to tell you about we also have plans for development. There is also a request to support the program. We are friends with. We develop all sports together. We have two world champions, Anton Konovalov and Anastasia Kabichkova, who twice and 3 times became world champions in Samba. And of course, Greek-Roman wrestling is an excellent school. We have a world champion, Huezid Mansagov, Artur Sarsyan. One of the big problems we have, unfortunately, has arisen 10 years ago. This is a deficit of medical personnel, almost 30%. And of course, like in other regions, we are trying to work according to the program of the local doctor. We invite them, and the ambulance too, and we invite them. Last year, we invited 70 specialists. But you know, it turns out to be, as they say, a game with a 0 result, because we invited them, but they came from Kostroma or Chuvash. Therefore, 3 years ago, I made a decision that we should have our own medical university. We have one of the few regions that did not have it. In fact, we have always depended on training in Yaroslavl, Ryazan, Ivano, and we are the only ones who opened a medical university in the country in 10 years. We have already trained for 2 years, 2 courses. There will be 200 students. And of course, we entered the program of preparing our own personnel on our own, because we understand that we cannot cope without it. Just to move from somewhere. They come to us, we pay more, they leave. That is, we still need to prepare personnel in order for people to settle in their places of study. We are coping with this on our own. The total investment from the regional budget will be... We have already spent half of it. In the bottom slide, this is an infectious disease hospital. We began to build it, also thanks to your support. But COVID-19 is over, and we have pre-designed it as a full-fledged hospital, multi-profile, infectious, with a second building. We provide housing, but it is scarce. Girls go to they return 30%, not 100. We have 1,000 people. We have training in other regions. A maximum of 30%, and here we received 1.3 billion from the federal budget and 4 billion from our own funds. Andrei Bogolyubsky. In 1169, this was an example of the first unification of the princedoms. This is certainly a story, but I will remind you a little. Andrei Bogolyubsky united 11 princedoms and stormed the city of Kyiv. They took it and burned it. This was an example of the first unification of the princedoms: Chernihiv, Smolensk, Tverskoye, Suzdal, Rostov, and so on. For the fact that the city sowed roses for the Russian, such was the story. Andrei Bogolyubsky is associated with the story of two icons. As you know, he took one icon from Kyiv. When he left on this is the Vladimir icon, God rest his soul. And he ordered the second one. This icon is now in the museum. It was written in 1155. It is full size, 185 centimeters in height. It was restored 100 years. In 1924, the restoration was completed. Now it is in the sarcophagus in the Vladimir Suzdal. If you ever have the opportunity to look at this relic, I recommend you to do so, because this is the state it was in. Thank you.